Eagles fans, this is Mike Kaye from NJ Advanced Media, and welcome to the No Huddle Show podcast, where we discuss anything and everything Philadelphia Eagles. You can read our content on NJ.com/Eagles, bookmark that, and you can subscribe to our exclusive Eagles Insider Text service, where we'll break news, give you insider observations, and provide in-depth analysis. Through Eagles Extra, you can send questions and comments directly to us, and we'll respond to your phone. With me today, as always, is my fellow Eagles beat reporter, Chris Franklin. Today we're going to discuss the Eagles' injuries, or lack thereof, Week 1 roster thoughts, and we'll preview the opener against the Falcons. Chris, that was a lot to say in a short span. How are you doing today?
Not bad, man. Not bad. We're recording this on a Friday and can't believe it's 2 days away, man, to kickoff. It's looking forward to it. And how's your Friday going?
I had my coffee. I upset my wife because I didn't get her text order for Duncan. So, we're off to a rough start. But you know what? Hey, you know what? It's Atlanta week. You and I are going to be flying to Atlanta, where I've heard players play on Saturday.
I don't mean to interrupt, but that video you posted of that mix-up with you in the video, man, bravo.
I that's a former coworker of mine, Tim. So in case you didn't see the tweet, my first live when I covered the Jaguars, I worked for a TV station, so I was a beat writer for a TV station. I know that sounds weird, but whatever, roll with it. So my first live shot ever was a preseason game in Atlanta. And I was like, you know what, screw it. I couldn't find my intro, and I just said, hey guys, welcome to Atlanta where the players play. Just to kind of as a joke to myself. I like doing that type of stuff. I've had segments where we try to fit as many Foo Fighters song titles as possible into a segment without messing up the analysis. Anyway, so my friend Tim, who was an editor and a photographer, edited it with Jermaine Dupree and who else is in that? Well, anyway, welcome to Atlanta where the players play, blah, blah, blah. So he spliced it in, and you can find that on Twitter. But anyway, look, I think we need to get into this right away. The national media has this assumption that the Eagles have the worst roster in the league and that they're going to win 2 or 3 games. And look, obviously, we as local beat reporters are going to have an understanding of the team that other people don't, but I'm kind of perplexed as to the logic of this team having such a bad roster, because you and I know as kind of football traditionalists that having a great offensive line and a great defensive line typically leads to wins. They can make up for poor secondary play. They can make up for quarterback or running back play. The Eagles, in my opinion, have a top 5 offensive line. They have a top 5 defensive line. Typically, when you win in the trenches, you win ball games. So what's your overall thoughts on this roster? Don't get me wrong. I don't think this is a great roster. I don't even know if it's a good roster. But I do think it's a middling roster when you look at the landscape of the league. As we saw last night with the Buccaneers, every team's one cornerback injury away from being toast in the secondary. So I think this perception that the Eagles have this god awful roster is ridiculous when you have stuff when you have stuff not stuff, but when you have players like Jason Kelce, Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, Josh Sweat, Derek Barnett, Lane Johnson, Isaac Seumalo, Jordan Mailata, Brandon Brooks, Miles Sanders, the upside of Devontae Smith, and so on and so forth. I just don't know how you could say this is a bottom roster. What's your take on the roster, Chris?
I don't think it's a bottom roster either. I think when you look, I think a good the offensive lines. I think if you have a really good one, you can gain a second to throw the ball. I think when you have a bad one, you a really good defensive line, you force the offense, you take a second off the opposing offense. I think they have that both sides. To me, I look at this roster as a whole overall. I think of it like a house where you have the outside, you have the exterior all done. I just think they need to go ahead and find the right furniture, find the right move, like how to fill the rooms. They have a good basis here. And now it's just incumbent to see a lot of these young guys develop. I think if you could find that you have these guys, if Devonta Smith, if you have Kenny Gainwell, if Milton Williams, and then you have the guys from last year like Jalen Reagor, if these guys and Jalen Hurts, if you have these guys develop and even play 3/4 of their potential, like 3/4 of their potential and projected to be, I think you have something that you can build on for the future and be one of the top 4 or 5 teams in the conference. So I think they have the right stuff there. It's a matter of seeing. It's going to be incumbent on his coaching staff to make sure they develop these players and make sure they get the most out of them.
Yeah, I think there's two reasons why national media feels the way it does. If I can rationalize. One, we obviously know that everybody has been kind of trained to realize that the quarterback position is the straw that stirs the drink. Like, essentially, if you have bad quarterback play, you're not going to win. And I think Jalen Hurts showed a lot of potential last year. He also made a lot of mistakes, wasn't extremely accurate either. So there's a sense of, hey, this guy's unproven. Hey, this guy wasn't really a prolific passer in college despite his success. So there's concern there. And then also I think we've as a society, we've been conditioned to believe that unproven equals unprepared. So like this wide receiver group is extremely unproven, but their upside's tremendous. So like there's wiggle room to feel like, yikes. Like, it's easy to look at the Eagles roster and shrug off the wide receiver position. Then you also look at what Devonta Smith did against the best talent in the country in college, you know, scoring 23 touchdowns and gaining over 1,800 yards. So it just depends on how you feel about his upside and how quickly he can deliver. I think there's a lot of unknowns at linebacker. There's unknowns at with Jordan Mailata. We haven't seen him do it for an entire season at left tackle. You know, there are questions and concerns about Miles Sanders being a feature back. There are questions and concerns about Kenny Gainwell. Can he really be a key part of this offense? So, like, I get that. But in a sense, when you dismiss unproven like that, then you should take the same approach with somebody like Trevor Lawrence. You should take the same approach with somebody like Zach Wilson. You should take the same approach with somebody like Penei Sewell. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's this rush to devalue potential for some positions and for some players when there isn't for others. Does that make sense?
It could be one of those things where when you look at those guys like Lawrence and Wilson, they're like the shiny new toy that everybody's seeing, that it's the top of mind. The draft just happened and there's more upside. And you had a guy like Hurts who came in the last 4 games of season where he's replacing. I think everybody was still trying to digest the whole Wentz change that was going on, even though Wentz was not playing as well as he could. So I think that was part of it. But I get where you're going at. I think it's more of a sense that, okay, you're looking at, they're trying to find the one person who they get the name brand guy that they can go ahead and pin the season on and say, okay, this is the guy who's can be like the well-known person in the league that can be featured on the vignettes and everything. You don't know for sure if the Hurts or Sanders or any of these guys can do that. So that's where I think a lot of national guys are going, oh, well, we don't see Aaron Rodgers. Oh, we don't see Russell Wilson. All right, I guess they're not going to be that great. And you go from there. So I think there's a little bit of that mixed in as well, too.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about Jalen Hurts, right? So he's been the guy all off season. He's had the ability to run this offense. He was named a captain along with Jason Kelsey, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Rodney McLeod, and Alex Singleton this week. And I think getting that captaincy is big. Like, Tua Tagovailoa did not get that captain patch with the Dolphins, the same guy who, you know, displaced Jalen at Alabama. So I think when you look at Jalen, look, off the field, he has every intangible possible. But then when you get on the field, something I've said to you privately is when you have a mobile quarterback who's unproven, weird stuff can happen. even if it's just for a season, especially when you have a new play caller in place, right? We saw what Dak Prescott was able to do as a rookie and as a second-year player. And I think I wouldn't compare Jalen's skill set to Dak's exactly, but I think sometimes when you have a guy who has mobility, right, and who can throw the football, but you're playing in an offense that's creative, talent level can sometimes be boosted, if that makes sense. I think, Ryan Tannehill had some years in Miami. I know it was an overall failure, but he had some years in Miami where he looked really good. Blake Bortles, his mobility helped him during some years in Jacksonville. If you have guys that can throw the ball downfield, have no fear, can move around the pocket, you have speed on the outside like the Eagles do, weird stuff can happen, and that's kind of where I'm at. You tracked him all throughout the summer. Tell me what your overall assessment of Jalen Hurts as QB1 has been throughout the summer.
Well, I think he started. He improved. I think that arc, if you had to go in and like put it like actual graphic, I think it went up as it improved, especially in the accuracy part. And I don't know if he was trying some different things or trying to work on different launch angles for throwing the ball and throwing off back foots. You see the quarterbacks do that with Brian Johnson, but it just looked like as the summer progressed, his technique and his fundamentals, his motion, it wasn't a lot of wasted motion. He was stepping into throws and it looked a lot better. And I see when I look his decision making, I think when to run, the only thing I think I'd see is and it's a tough split second. The only thing I would probably see is I want to see him improve with it. Like he's still working on that, is when to run and when not to run, and allowing routes to develop a little more, like for maybe like a split second. And it's tough because when you have a skill set like he does and is able to run the ball, you kind of want to see, you may get 3-4 yards at the pop, but I want to see he still has to work on letting his routes develop. So instead of staying on the ground, getting 3-4 yards, maybe 10, letting the routes develop so he can get 15-20 yards down the field to his wide receivers who are fast and can make some plays after the catch. And getting back to what you said about the leadership role, I thought it was more telling that Tua wasn't named the captain as opposed to Hurts being the captain, because it just seems like whenever you have the quarterback, they're automatically going to be the captain. It just seems like 8 times, 9 times out of 10 that would happen. And the fact that Tua was, and I know they had a different process, but and allowing basically having people volunteer and stuff. But I thought that was more telling than the fact, because than Hurts being named one. That's personally, I think, in my opinion, when it came to that thing.
Yeah, I think that volunteer thing's kind of lame. Like, imagine being like, yeah, I want to be everybody's leader. You know what I mean? Here's why I should be. It's kind of like running for class president, I guess. So in that sense, whatever. But good for Mac Hollins. Anyway, so let's talk about the wide receiver position. A lot of us in the media thought that they would keep 6. They ended up keeping 5. Fans have been kind of perturbed about that 5th wide receiver, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. I've got a story coming out Sunday about Arcega-Whiteside and Reagor. But like everything I've heard internally is they were like extremely impressed by his Jets week. Not just the preseason game, but the week of practice. I've spoken to people within the, around and within the organization who were impressed by his summer. But I can tell you that Jets week is what made him helped him secure his spot on this team over Travis Fulgham, over John Hightower. I think having a new staff kind of gave him a fresh start. It also gave Jalen Reagor a fresh start. We talked to Jalen Reagor yesterday. Reagor seems to be in a really good space mentally. I've spoken to people around him who have also said they've noticed a change in him. He's just very focused on his job this year. But I want to get back to Arcega-Whiteside. I asked Shane Steichen about what he brought to the table. They seem to be really enthusiastic about his effort, which is something he said that he really wanted to focus on as opposed to his errors this summer. And it seems like that's worked out. He's also given a lot of effort on special teams. Michael Clay praised him as well. Thought he did a phenomenal job this offseason. So while I don't think J.J. Arcega-Whiteside's ever going to live up to his second-round draft pick, eventually that can't matter, right? Like, yes, it was a wasted opportunity, but eventually you got to move on. I know that's hard for fans to hear, but, like, if he can contribute in some area, I mean, Nelson Aguilar went out and had a great playoff run during the Super Bowl run. I don't think people are hung up on him being a first-round pick anymore, right? I'm not saying that's what J.J. Arcega-Whiteside is, but he is kind of, one of these things is not like the other. You've got a bunch of speed in that room. Arcega-Whiteside's more of a jump ball enthusiast. He's a guy who can play on special teams. He's a very good blocker. He can fill out a role here. What's your take on the wide receiver room as a whole? I know I talked about Devontae Smith and Jalen Reagor. Talk to me about Quez Watkins. Talk to me about what Greg Ward can do. Talk to me about this entire group.
Well, I think when you look at Greg Ward, I'll start with Greg Ward and work way younger. And who's hard to believe he's actually the old man in the room. But when you look at, I think he's the guy who you can have to operate the middle of the field if they go 4 or 5 wide receivers, because that role of trying to occupy the safeties and linebackers and stuff, that's ultimately going to fall on Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert. But if they decide they want to stretch out the field and have Ward, basically I think that's Ward's role. Just, hey, get to the sticks, find the soft area of the zone, catch the ball. Okay, you're done. Get off the field. And that's good for what he is. That's nothing wrong with that at all. When I look at Watkins, I see a guy who I like what he's turned into. I mean, we didn't see much of him early on last year because of his injuries, but he's really shown that he can not only just run that go route. He's starting to develop some of his stuff in the middle, like moving across the field. And I like how he's sometimes getting off the ball and avoiding jams and trying to get open. So I like what I've seen out of that as well too. When it comes to Arcega-Whiteside, I think you can't have, it'd be nice to have like all 5 guys on the field, wide receivers on the field who, hey, you know what? They're all going to be big play potential, but you just can't have it. And the 5th wide receiver is not going to get that much time on the field to begin with, unless they're doing special teams. So I think that's what the team leaned more. I think for me, when you look at more towards the bottom of the thing, I thought it was more telling when the Eagles came up who they're protecting. They'd rather protect John Hightower than Travis Fulgham. I thought that was pretty telling to see how far that Fulgham has fallen, is low in this staff size and this front office's eyes and what he can contribute. So they have, I think there's a lot of speed, and I think they're going to rely on their tight ends to be those physically. The only thing I'm a little worried about is when they get to the red zone, it comes to 50-50 balls. I mean, Smith has some vertical, so Smith has a decent vertical, I think, but you can't rely. They don't have that big guy, so you may have to come down to, if you want to go a jump ball, you may have to either split Goddard or Ertz out the tight end wide, but you may have to bring Arcega-Whiteside if you need to, at the 1, and you just want to throw a fade back to the back of the end zone. They don't have that size, but I think that's the role he's going to play if he gets on the field a lot at the receiver.
Yeah, and I think that's the logic of having the 2 tight ends. I think you go very tight end heavy in the red zone. Look, let's talk about the injuries now. So Brandon Brooks has a knee injury. He was limited the first 2 days of practice. We're recording this before the final day of practice. It doesn't seem like it's going to hinder him moving into week 1. It is something to monitor. We'll obviously have updates on Eagles Extra and on NJ.com. When the final injury report comes out. Roddy McLeod has been limited all week. I'm going to lean on the pessimistic side and say that, hey everyone, it's Mike Kaye, Eagles beat reporter for NJ.com and the host of the No Huddle Show podcast. The first Sunday of the NFL season is here, and the excitement continues with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. DraftKings is giving all new customers a can't-miss offer to celebrate the return of the NFL season. Bet just $1 on any football game this weekend and receive $200 in free bets instantly, no matter what. That's right, DraftKings Sportsbook is giving all new customers $200 in free bets instantly when they bet at least $1 on any football game. DraftKings is safe, reliable, and secure, making it easy for you to deposit and withdraw your money at your convenience. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code GOBIRDS to receive $200 in free bets when you place a $1 bet on any Week 1 game. That's promo code GOBIRDS to get your free $200 in free bets instantly. This week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older, Pennsylvania only, new customers only, restrictions apply, in partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. I don't think he plays this week. I think you're relying on Anthony Harris, Kayvon Wallace, and Marcus Epps in those safety roles. They have Andre Shashir or Shashiri.
Shashiri, yeah. The last syllable always gets me.
Isn't it Shashiri?
Yeah, SHA.
Andre C. All right.
Yeah.
Anyway, Andre C. Yeah. So Andre C. can back up safety and nickel corner. Look, I think they just want to get through Week 1, right? I wouldn't be shocked if Rodney McLeod makes his return in Week 2 when the Eagles are back at the link. Landon Dickerson's been limited all week. I'd say his prospects of playing are very, very minimal. They don't really need to rush him. They cross-trade Nate Herbig at center. He can back up both guard spots. Brett Toth can back up guard and tackle. And obviously you're going to have Andre Dillard probably active as well. And then Davian Taylor's been limited all week, which is a good sign, but I don't think they're going to rush him back. They have quite a bit of depth at linebacker, especially from the off-the-ball variety. You know, if you're going to start Eric Wilson and Alex Singleton, and those are going to be your two main linebackers, you have TJ Edwards and Shaw Bradley to back them up. I think that's fine. And then, look, I mean, those are the injuries. So, like, if I had to guess who they'd bring up from the practice squad, I'm guessing since they protected Jordan Howard, Elijah Riley, John Hightower, and LaRaven Clark, that they're probably going to bring up Jordan Howard and Elijah Riley to kind of fill up the safety and running back rooms. I'd imagine the 7 guys who are inactive are Gardner Minshew, Mr. T, Taron Jackson, Landon Dickerson, probably Rodney McLeod. Who else am I thinking? Maybe Mac McCain, since he just got here. And then, Patrick Johnson possibly, because Singleton can play the Sam role, and so can Bradley. So, look, I think this is going to be one of those games where, they're going in relatively healthy. They've got to figure out what their depth is. But Andre C. kind of gives them a human cheat code in the fact that he can play all 3 cornerback positions. He can play both safety positions. He has a background with Jonathan Gannon. I know he just got here, but, there are only so many coverages you can learn and do in the NFL, right? So what do you think about their health outlook? What do you think about how they are heading into this matchup against Atlanta?
Well, I thought it was telling when it comes to Rodney McLeod when we spoke with Darius Slay, and he said he made it sound like he wasn't going to play at all, and saying because he thought he was on the PUP list still. So I thought that was pretty telling, saying like, all right, McLeod sounds like he's not going to go this week. So I thought that. I think overall, besides McLeod's injury, I don't think there's anything nothing too big to worry about. I think the whole thing with Brandon Brooks and his knee was just being in maintenance. I don't think that's going to hinder him. I mean, watching him Thursday at practice and the way he was still getting off the ball and working with those tandem blocks with Lane Johnson, he looked like he was fine, at least from the outside eye. So I thought that's okay when it comes to there. Overall, when it comes to Shashiri, I'm intrigued to see what he does. I mean, it's nice to have that versatility, but like you mentioned, when it comes to coverages, okay, well, this defense, we're probably going to play a lot of zone, and I just want to see what aspect he's going to play. Is he going to play more box? Is he going to play more free? Are they going to try to, or how much are they going to put in his plate? That's going to be the big question. And also, I think that'll be telling to see what type of defense Gannon plays, because if all of a sudden we see Shashiri come in and he looks like he's playing a lot of snaps, we start looking like, hey, it's going to be more Indianapolis Colts type stuff. So I think it'll be intriguing to see how much he contributes overall, and to see if he makes a difference, especially with McLeod looking like he's on track to be out.
Yeah, I agree. I think, look, there's like this numbers game you have to play, and I think the Eagles are going to have to figure this out just like everybody else. At least they're not the Baltimore Ravens, who have had 3 major injuries at running back within a week. So,
are you healthy to take a physical to play?
Yeah, I mean I thought I was going to get a call about my knees. Like, I woke up from a nap. I was like, "Is that you, John Harbaugh?" But look, let's get into the preview. Obviously, we don't know much about what Atlanta's going to do. We do know that they have Matt Ryan, Kyle Pitts, and Calvin Ridley on offense. And that's really been kind of the storyline heading into this one. They're also possibly going to have a rookie start at guard against Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave. Pray for that young man. But let's get into this matchup. I'm gonna normally I like to take the football-centric analysis standpoint, but I'm going to toss the hat to you, Chris, because I know how much you've been wanting to talk and deep dive into this matchup. So go ahead, give the listeners what they need.
Well, I'll start with when the Eagles look when they're on offense. So one thing Dean Pease likes to really do, and he's even mentioned in his introductory press conference, he wants to bring pressure everywhere from every on all sides. So you're going to have, even though the Falcons, when I look at the things, I look at Grady Jarrett and Steve Means as the main guys on that defense, but there's not that any other elite or above average players on that end. So they can have, I think this offense can move the ball against them. The biggest thing that I'm going to key and watch are if they do bring that nickel cornerback from the slot, if you do have that cornerback, the corner blitzes, or you have these exotic blitzes, how well these running backs can pick it up, because Miles Sanders has some issues when it comes to that. He's gotten better as he's gotten older, but he's had some issues. I mean, we saw rookie Kenny Gainwell going to have to decipher what they're trying to do along with the offensive line, and you have Boston Scott too. So the backs are going to be critical in helping protect Jalen Hurts. I think that this Eagles secondary, I think we'll see a mixture. I think we'll see a lot more wide receiver screens than we're used to. I think it's to get the ball in these wide receivers' hands. So I think the Eagles have a chance to use that wide receiver screen game as an extension of the run. Like I don't think it's going to be one of those games where you look up, it's going to be like, Miles Sanders only had about 15 carries, maybe 13, 15 carries, but he had about like 6 targets in that just to get him out in space. I think it's going to be one of those games. Defensively, when I look at the Eagles, everything starts with Matt Ryan to me, and you're not going to fool him a lot. He's seen a lot. He's a veteran guy that can move the ball he can move the ball. He gets the ball out quickly. And now that you have Kyle Pitts in the middle that can who can line up anywhere. He's just a freak of nature. And if he fell to the Eagles when they had him at sick, I can see why they trade out, because everybody wanted him, but I think he's going to be good for years to come. And he's going to create a lot of matchup problems, especially when you don't have McLeod and you have your biggest question marks on his team are in the secondary. Having not only him, but Calvin Ridley on the outside, who can run great routes and is a fast receiver, that's going to be very, very tough to stop as well. I think the Eagles, when it comes to the running, they can dominate the line of scrimmage against this offensive line of the Atlanta Falcons, and that's going to be key, not only just getting pressure, but filling those gaps in the run defense. Because earlier last year, if you had to say not besides secondary, I thought their run defense early on, especially missed tackles. And that's another thing too. There hasn't been, a lot of these guys haven't played into deep into games because of preseason. How well can they tackle? And B, will they be conditioned well enough so when it comes to third, fourth quarter and they're running around, will that lead to more missed tackles because they're tired and they're fading in? So I think that's going to be something else to watch when it comes to these two. But it's going to be I think the Eagles matchup, it's going to be a close game overall, I think.
Yeah, I've got this as a 4-point game. I had the Eagles winning 24-20. I just think if the offensive line does what it needs to do, Miles Sanders is going to have a good day on the ground. I also feel like Jalen Hurts is going to be able to find Devontae Smith. You can talk about his size all you want. I'm not big on this Atlanta secondary. I think I think there will be plays to be had. And I think if you look at the tight ends and the way they progress throughout the summer, I think Zach Ertz is going to surprise a lot of people with what his yards per catch average is going to be. I think you're going to see him go down the field quite a bit more this season. I think the arrival of Jason Michael has really kind of opened up his route running prowess. It's opened up his toolbox because, he had Justin Peele for 8 years, and Justin Peele, I don't know if there's a more lucky tight ends coach in the history of the NFL when you look at Brent Selleck, Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert, inheriting Richard Rodgers. I think Jason Michael provides a fresh perspective, and I think he was a huge addition because he comes with the mindset of a quarterback's coach, and he's been an offensive coordinator. Then you have Kevin Patullo, who's a passing game coordinator. And then you have Nick Sirianni, who's hands-on with the wide receivers and the tight ends. And I think that all adds up to, improving Zach Ertz's game. Zach Ertz even said earlier or last week that he's learned so much from Sirianni as a receiver that it was almost counterintuitive to what he was successful at before. So I think you'll see a change in Zach Ertz. I don't think he's going to light the world on fire. I don't think he's going to have a career year. But I think his work within the ecosystem of the offense is going to be completely different than it was under Doug Peterson, than it was under Chip Kelly. So I'm intrigued by that. It remains to be seen who will be targeted more, Ertz or Goddard. But I will say Jalen Hurts exceeded my expectations exponentially with his ability to target the middle of the field during the summer. So look out, Falcons defense is what I would say. On defense, they're going to have to pressure Matt Ryan. That's just really what it is. And so for me, I'm really looking forward to the interior matchup. I've said this for years. I think a good interior pass rush is better than an exterior pass rush because A, it forces the quarterback out of the pocket, and B, if it doesn't force the quarterback out of the pocket, it limits his ability to step up as a passer. So that creates situations where Brandon Graham can clean up and get a sack, or Josh Sweat can get a sack. I'm very intrigued by Josh Sweat and who starts in this game between him and Derek Barnett. For your final thoughts, Chris, give me 3 players you're really paying attention to on the Eagles roster heading into this matchup.
Well, heading into the matchup, Zach McPherson is one of them. I want to see how much Zach gets into the game and to what assignment he draws and how he was played, especially his rookie as a rookie. So I thought that's beat Devonta Smith. I mean, we finally get to see him game action, not only as a receiver, but potentially as a punt returner. I mean, I'm curious to see how much the Eagles use him in that aspect. And a third one is Jordan Mailata. I want to see how this is a very important year for him. He's now the starting left tackle, and he has a chance to make some money, a lot of money now, being that he's in the final year of his contract and he's a left tackle in the NFL. I mean, this is a big opportunity for him, and he's got a lot of responsibility protecting Jalen Hurts' blind side. So I think those are the 3 guys I'm really intrigued to see how well they play in this game against the Falcons. How about you?
Well, I'm gonna combine 2 guys. I want to see the right side of the line. I want to see how Brandon Brooks responds with this knee injury. He's playing his first game since December, or his first regular season game since December 2019. I also want to see how Lane Johnson bounces back from this ongoing ankle surgery drama. If you guys checked it out this week, if you've been following us on social media, Chris and I worked on a story this week about how Lane Johnson's ankle injury forced him to hire a full-time trainer, Gabe Rangel, a former, Marine veteran, who went from training the likes of Diddy and Adam Levine to training MMA fighters to then training Lane Johnson. You can check that out on NJ.com. I'm just interested to see how that right side works. And then I'd say Jalen Reagor. I really think Jalen Reagor came into this week with a fresh mindset. I was really impressed by him in his press conference this week. But all that's window dressing if he doesn't deliver. And I think having Devonta Smith takes some pressure off of him. He doesn't have to be like a position savior on the depth chart. He can just do his job. And I think being a number 2 wide receiver if he can be a really good one, still makes him worth that pick that was spent last year. So that's where I'm kind of at. We're going to head to Atlanta on Saturday, going to check out Coke World. Is that what it's called? Coca-Cola World?
Yep. Well, yeah, the World Coke or Coke World, something like that for it. It's not a Scarface thing, so yeah. But actually,
oh yeah, good point. I can understand the marketing there. And then we're going to check out the College Football Hall of Fame. I'm sure we'll see a lot of Devontae Smith stuff there. You're going to want to sign up for Eagles Extra, obviously. NJ.com/text will give you guys updates on inactives. We'll have detailed analysis that's exclusive to you as a member of Eagles Extra. NJ.com/text. Also remember to subscribe wherever you subscribe to podcasts. The No Huddle Show podcast. This is the podcast that gives you all the stuff without all kind of the BS and the shots at colleagues and all that other stuff. But anyway, so with that said, for Chris, I'm Mike. We'll see you soon.
Acast recommends more podcasts, more episodes, more great shows. Keep listening to hear a new season we recommend.
Fish fans are birds of a certain feather. They're not quite deadheads, they're not exactly parrot heads, and they're a far cry from juggalos. Many bands have obsessed and dedicated followers, but only Fish has fish heads. Undermine is a podcast narrated by the band's lyricist, Tom Marshall. That's me. And on this season of Undermine, we shine a light on the Fish fan that lives down the block. You see them wearing clothes with donut-shaped patterns, and you hear them using strange words. They have their own slang, their own mythology, their own rituals, and their own rules. On this season of Undermine, we dive deeply into a devoted fan base that has spawned a countercultural revolution in your backyard. It's Undermine Season 2 this fall. Find us on Acast or wherever you get your podcasts. Presented by Osiris Media.
Acast recommends.